Hello and welcome everyone to this event that is a side event to the UN Statistical Commission, and that will be covering the work of the Global Network of Institutions for Statistical Training. My name is Vibeke Nielsen, and I'm an interregional advisor at the UN Statistics Division, and I'm also playing the secretariat role for GIST. We are very excited to have you all here, and we are looking forward to share some of the progress that we have made together as the Global Network of Institutions for Statistical Training group. And we're having a quite packed program today, so I won't spend too much time in this introduction. I'll just do a very few quick housekeeping rules. First of all, for those of you who are co-hosts, please make sure to just, if you have to leave the meeting, don't leave it for all, leave it for yourself only. That's unfortunately an issue with the WebEx. Second, as you heard, we are recording this event, so I hope that is okay to everyone. We will be hearing from a number of speakers today, and I'll introduce them one-on-one. If you have any questions, if there's anything that needs clarifications, or you want to have your question asked in the questions and answers section at the end, please just put them in the chat. Then we will pick them up, a few of them, the ones that we have time for, and try to have them responded by the group of people that we have joining us here today. So, first of all, I would like to introduce the chair of GIST, Dr. Mitali Sen, who is the chief of the Technical Assistance and Capacity Building branch of the International Program Center of the US Census Bureau. She will give us an overview of the work of GIST overall and give you some inspiration, hopefully, for materials you can access and tools that could be relevant for you in statistical training context. Over to you, Mitali.
Thank you, Vibeke. Welcome to the 2022 GIST Open event. Our topic is, as Vibeke said, what makes a national statistical training program sustainable? My job here is only to give you an overview of the GIST work and introduce GIST to you. I hope some of you here are new to us. So GIST stands for Global Network of Institutions for Statistical Training. It was established by the UN Statistical Division as a response to the 2030 Agenda and SDGs data demands. That was quite a lot for many statistical organizations, and we quickly realized that training and capacity building was key to the delivery of these data demands. While training was available, there was a lot of duplication of effort, there were gaps in training, so GIST was established to address those issues. So the Global Network of Institutions for Statistical Training is a network of international and regional training institutions working together to build sustainable statistical capacities through efficient, effective, and harmonized delivery of training. Some of the highlights of our accomplishments as GIST for 2021 are the following. Some of these products have been stood up over the last 2 years, but we continue to work on them. So there is a UNSDG Learn virtual hub. It's a platform with courses and learning materials that can be accessed by people all over the world. Another thing we did was we added new microlearning materials, our members, which I will cover. We also started doing outreach for all the products that we have been putting out. Until we do outreach and NSOs everywhere know that it exists, GIST cannot be effective. So it really depends on more people knowing our work, more people using it. We've also started working on a statistical literacy inventory of courses on statistical literacy across the globe, and trying to find the good courses and be able to upload them in a common platform. And then finally, a task team has worked on trying to establish training programs in NSOs and in national statistical systems that are sustainable. Many training programs are either ad hoc or training programs don't sustain over time. And that is why one task team has been working on it. And that's the major topic of this event. So I will actually not be touching upon it in my talk. So this is the picture you see on the top is actually a screenshot from the UNSDG Learn virtual hub. It is a platform with courses on many statistical topics. Just in this screenshot, you will see there's fundamental principles of official statistics. There are a lot of labor productivity, agricultural kind of courses. There are courses on gender statistics, lots of different economic courses, demographic courses, etc. And they're all relevant to the 2030 agenda and SDG indicators. There are over 70 courses available now. There are also another 30 other kind of learning resources, technical briefs, micro learnings, etc., that have been added over the past year. The micro learnings that have been added were created by UNSD and UNITAR. And these are really very interesting videos for the general public to learn about why statistics is important. So it's the National Statistics Superheroes Office. Where are the green hats? National Statistics Super Office. Episode 2 is, are the health data right? And then Data Concierge, which talks about how data should be stewarded. And then Data Visualization Contest. So these are all ways of letting people know how important statistics is and to access, and how do you access good data, and what is in a world where statistics can be used for the good or the bad. It's really important that people get statistically literate. So these are great videos, and I would encourage you to view them. And then, as I said, outreach is really important. And this past year, we started working on outreach. Since we have products now, we want the world to know. So one of the things we did is this GIST newsletter. We released the newsletter in December, our first newsletter, and it was sent to almost 6,000 people. And we now have more than 60 subscribers, but we really encourage you to subscribe too. If you haven't as yet. We also did 5 GIST-related webinars and sessions. We wrote articles, etc. And I see Viveke has put the newsletter in the chat. And we're going to work on a draft. We're going to draft a communication strategy to do better at this. So yes, thank you for the claps. Newsletter is a good thing. And the proposed plans going forward is to work on this outreach. Number 1, develop a robust communication strategy that will publicize the work of GIST so that more countries use it. Number 2, we continue to add courses, course offerings and learning materials from the member groups, good quality courses. Number 3, in our work, there has been a realization that there's a real need for a statistical capacity gap assessment tool. In order to do any training program, you need to first know what training is required. So there is no tool available that covers all statistical areas. And so this is going to take some time to develop, but we want to do that. GIST is poised to in a very good positioned in a very good place to do that. And finally, the topic of this is sustainable training programs, which we've been piloting. And so we will continue to pilot sustainable training programs using GIST guidelines in various countries. We hope to include more and more countries as we go forward. So in conclusion, GIST was created to help NSOs deliver the demands of the 2030 Agenda and SDG indicators through providing training resources. So we encourage NSOs and their staff to integrate GIST online products in their training programs, sign up for the newsletter, attend our GIST events on various forums. And so we really are happy that you're here, and we thank you for your participation. The rest of the session focuses on the work of GIST and its members to help set up statistical training programs. If you have any questions about any of what I covered, can you please put it in the chat? Thank you, and I'm looking forward to the presentations that follow.
Thank you so much, Mitali. And as you said, I put a lot of the links to the things that you mentioned in the chat, if anyone wants to copy them and keep them for later. Otherwise, you can also visit the home pages of GIST. You will find all the information there as well. So that's a possibility. As Mitali was saying, we will focus the event today on sustainable statistical training programs at national level. And I'm very happy to have Mr. Dag Roll-Hansen here, who will introduce us to the topic and explain more to us what we are meaning with this, and also tell us what we've been working on in GIST related to this topic. Dag is currently working for Statistics Norway, but he's also active in GIST, represented in the task team that has been working with this focus on sustainable statistical training programs. And he also helped GIST develop some of the materials that I'll be putting in the chat later on as well. So with that, over to you, Dag, and your presentation.
Thank you, Vibeke. Thank you for the introduction. It's an honor to be filling in for Mamadou at this event.
Sorry, Dag, we see your run-up show now and not the presentation.
Oh, sorry. Trying to do this very smooth, but I didn't manage.
Perfect, this works.
Okay, I'll try again. Thank you for the introduction, Vibeke. It's an honor to be filling in for Mamadou, the head of our task team on NSO needs at this event. Our aim is to improve coordination of statistical training and help fill in gaps. You see already here some examples of reports we have made on this. The reports to the left are based on interviews and training programs in 15 countries and 7 regional organizations supporting NSOs. Thanks to the Arab Institute for Training and Research in Statistics for translating the document into Arabic. The reports to the right are based on information from 2 workshops, each including around 25 participants, some of you, from NSOs and institutions engaging in statistical training, as well as several interviews. One of them addresses experiences from countries on how to build statistical training in general, and the other focus on the use of e-learning. The documents are available on the GIST webpage. Yes, and the link will be available later. So let us look into some of the main findings. Mainly challenges, but as you know, solutions always are at the end of the challenges. Courses are often only given one time or only within only one organization. They are rarely shared between organizations. Some training for new staff exists, but this is mostly focused towards learning basic statistics, not organizational and management structure, administrative procedures, and getting to know people. All the things you need to thrive and survive at work. Partners often give training to support projects or training aligned with their priorities, regardless of what is the need of a National Statistics Office, an NSO. In addition to knowing the topic, you need to think through the learning objectives, the content, the methods used when you train, related to what the participants already know and what they are going to use the training for. This is sometimes not focused enough on at trainings in NSOs. And there is a language issue which is often neglected by international organizations. Learning in English is often difficult if you don't know the language well enough. Sharing material and adapting to national needs is maybe not all that common enough. Many start off developing material from scratch, especially at the local level. There is quite a bit of e-learning existing, and as Mitali said, we have the UNSC Digital Learn as a good example of that. But often NSOs doesn't use e-learning all that much, and maybe especially they don't adapt it to fit their local needs. Now some challenges related to developing individual courses into a training program. Many struggle to get started building a program. There are often small things that stops NSOs from establishing a training program. For example, like training facilities not available, maybe not fully furnished, the list of courses are not fully developed, etc. Many want to have a comprehensive overview of needs before they start. And it's always good to do a needs assessment or a gap analysis to identify the needs. But there is also generally some needs that are already known to the organization. It is generally a lot of different topics needed to be trained on, also on different levels, which adds challenge to the task. Training material can be taken from many sources. Many are not aware of the possible sources that can be used to build a program. It's more out there than we usually know. And also a person follows a path in his or her career development, but few NSOs help staff in their individual development. I guess Ireland is a notable example of this that we will hear more about later. Lack of funding is often limiting, especially if travels are needed, which tend to be expensive. Some NSOs also face challenges in receiving free training from international organizations, as there are local costs associated with them that may be difficult to cover. Also, there are challenges in including the full national statistical system in the training, meaning ministries and agencies producing statistics, producing official statistics. NSS staff often know less of statistics than NSO staff does, and sometimes use other systems to produce statistics. So, positive side, what motivates trainers and course participants? People always like training that is useful for their tasks. Often modern training techniques are inspiring. This includes the use of videos, e-learning, and maybe especially variation in the training methods. Knowledge is power is said, it's a slogan, something said in many cultures and organizations, often discouraging people to share knowledge because it may weaken their position in the organization. Adequate time allows teaching and learning. If people don't have the time, they don't prioritize training. Economic incentives may be good in many cases, but may also lead to unnecessary trainings and trainings not reaching the right participants, the most that can benefit most from it. It is motivating if training can contribute to a career path, along with certificates and accreditation. Many NSOs do not consider who should attend the trainings to have the most benefit for the organization. how to ensure the right people attend trainings, for example, that both women and young staff have access to trainings, are questions we might ask ourselves. One thing we found is that online training generally increases female participation in training, as it is often difficult for women to travel, either because they are not allowed or due to family obligations. So, how should this be put into practice? GIST is supporting Ethiopia and Ghana in setting up and improving their statistical training programs. The Statistics Office in Ethiopia has already started the work to establish a training program, breathing life into their training center, and to do a needs assessment. Ghana also wants to provide more systematic trainings and are currently in the process of specifying their plans. Now we will soon hear from Abarash what is happening in Ethiopia. But this is all from my side, so thank you. Over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Doug, for giving us the overview of the work that has been done and kind of pointing out to many of the challenges that have been identified and the variations in systems. And as you can see from Doug's presentation, we're still in the early stages of the work that we are doing under this topic. So you can follow us and see what will be coming moving forward. We want to keep you as participants a bit active and break it up a bit. So we have prepared a polling question that Jaspreet, who is helping me here, will be making available to you now. The question that you then now can see in the chat and that you can respond to asks, what kind of official statistical training do you have in your country? And the three response options are: we have an official statistical training program that provides training courses regularly. The second is we have an official statistical training program, but the offerings are ad hoc. And the third option is we mostly rely on trainings provided by international and regional partners. So please go ahead and respond. And we'll close it in not too far future. It looks like you already ended the poll, Jaspreet. Is that the case?
It just ended right now. It was a timer.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. So we'll see the result then. So there weren't that many that had the chance to respond, but we see that the majority of the participants here do have a training program, which is great. So with that, as Doug was saying, let me introduce Abarash. She's the Deputy Chief Statistician of the Central Statistical Agency of Ethiopia, and she's a member of the Stakeholder Advisory Group of GIST. The Stakeholder Advisory Group is providing input to GIST on whether the members of GIST or whether we are moving in the right direction and developing materials that are relevant in their view to the statistics community. And she's also a key player in setting up a statistical training program in Ethiopia. And as Doug was saying, we are currently also engaging with Ethiopia on piloting some of the ideas that Doug was presenting, also in partnership with Statistics Norway and other actors. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Abarash.
Okay, thank you, Vibeke. So I'll be presenting the plan for establishing statistical training program at national level, which we are exercising in Ethiopia. So the plan for establishing training program at national level, we in Ethiopia, Ethiopian Statistical Service, which previously called Central Statistical Agency, has designed a 10-year and 5-year statistics plan. and strengthening human resource capacity is subtheme under quality and trusted statistics team in the NSDS 3, which is planned to be implemented in the coming 5 years. And operationalizing the NSS Training Center is the major strategic action for strengthening human resource capacity. And in relation to this, ASS is in the process of setting up the training center for the national statistical system. Next slide. And we plan to conduct sustainable statistical training, both as tailor-made and pre-scheduled trainings. So the major activities planned to establish sustainable training programs are basically to conduct comprehensive training need assessment for the national statistical system. This is the first thing that we should do, and this is what we are starting. And the second one is to prepare curriculum to make it the training more sustainable and more standard. And the third one is preparing relevant regulations, which helps us to implement the sustainable training program. And the last one is preparing training documents for at least for the major areas, so that we can make the training more sustainable, more standard, and to provide the training according to the curriculum. Yeah, next slide. And the plan is to mobilize and use trainers from Ethiopian Statistical Service. Normally, it's difficult to provide training only from one institution. So we are planning, when coming to the trainers, we are planning to mobilize trainers from our office, Ethiopian Statistical Service, from universities, from professional associations like Ethiopian Statistical Association, Ethiopian Economic Association, and also from UN agencies like UNSC, UNSC, and other UN agencies, and also other partners and other countries like Statistics Norway. So we are planning to mobilize the trainers when we start the sustainable training. And the training materials prepared by GIST members, which was presented and on the first presentation, and which is uploaded on UNSDG Learn, will be used as a good reference. We have started referring these documents, and we realized that these documents will be highly helpful and will support our sustainable training program. And Ethiopia is a pilot country to test the activities of GIST for establishing statistical training program at sustainable statistical training program at national level, including the training needs assessment questionnaire and the curriculum development. Next slide. In addition to our collaboration with GIST, we also have a project with Statistics Norway, and capacity development is one area of collaboration with the Statistics Norway. And Statistics Norway is providing us training on different aspects, which will help to operationalize the Statistics Training Center to provide sustainable and comprehensive training. Actually, we are working very closely with Doug and his team. And we are working together on identifying basic training areas, and the process of identifying the trainers, and how to prepare and avail training documents, and also on the design of training needs assessment questionnaire, the format for the training curriculum. So we are discussing all this with Statistics Norway on the design project. Next slide. Yeah, so this is what we're exercising in relation to organizing and setting up a sustainable training program, and we hope we will start very soon the sustainable training program for the whole national statistical system in Ethiopia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abarash, for sharing the Ethiopian experience. I think what you're doing is really excellent, and also to highlight the ownership that you at CSA have to setting this up, the process that you've had kind of linking up with the NSTS, integrating elements of it into your legal framework. It's really well thought through and brings all the elements together. So for those of you who found the experience from Ethiopia interesting, please reach out to Abarash and learn more from what they're doing, and we'll also as just be sharing more of this in detail as we move along and we see how things are progressing in Ethiopia. Vitali was sharing at the beginning as one of the achievements of just last year the microlearning videos. And we wanted to just give you a few small snippets during the session as well on these micro-learning videos. So I'm handing over to an intern that is working with us at UNSC that will be sharing the first snippet, which is the superhero one, please. And we can't hear the sound now, Yixing. Now it's working, yeah.
The superheroes from the National Statistical Office support their colleagues in government with data to understand what's happening across the country.
National Statistical Office. We count everyone because everyone counts. Can I trust our numbers?
Can I trust our numbers? Can I trust that information? Once again, there's trouble in Estigia. Can the superheroes help?
The prevalence of diabetes appears to be a lot higher in Eastern Province.
Is there any chance that someone might have something to gain from reporting a few extra diabetes cases? Or perhaps something to gain from the treatments? The National Statistical Office is collaborating with the Ministry of Health. We will put our heads together, compare data and methods, and try to understand what might be causing this apparent rise in cases.
Yes, I did see them. I'll take care of it.
Yes, I also put the links to some of these videos in the chat. Thank you, Yixing, for sharing. I hope you enjoy it and you will be watching more of these videos that we have prepared. I think the main idea with them is to make them available for everyone in different statistics offices and statistics system to help kind of showcase what we as official statisticians can do and what our role is to kind of promote ourselves. And it's bringing different elements. We have the superheroes here. We also have the data visualization example with the contents and then the NSO as a data concierge. But we also want to hear from more superheroes. I mean, from countries that are really working hard on statistical training. And the next presentation that we have is from Ireland and from Pamela Lafferty. She's the head of the Statistical Training Unit at the Central Statistical Office in Ireland. And the primary focus of their unit is to create the statistical capability and capacity to deliver strategic objectives. Prior to taking up this role, she worked as a statistician in research and methodology and has also been working on survey and income on living conditions. So with that, over to you, Pamela, who will also be sharing some really interesting work on statistical training.
That's great. Thank you, Vibeke. And I'm not sure I'd describe myself as a superhero, but we will keep going anyway. So today I'm just going to very quickly give you a snapshot of where we are in CSO Ireland. And I suppose we have developed the CSO Statistical Training Framework. And I just want to quickly tell you why we did it, quickly tell you what we did it, but to spend more time on how we did it and how do we sustain it, how do we keep it going. So to start with, the driving, I suppose, why we did it, and the driving forces were external and internal. And while the internal ones were maybe more numerous, they weren't as impactful as the external ones. And I suppose, like all of you out there, we are facing an increasing appetite for time, more quicker, faster, more detailed data, We have more competitors in the data market at the moment, and we have more competition in the labour market at the moment. So trying to attract the right skills and the right people and become the employer of choice were all external drivers, I suppose, forcing us to rethink how we do business and how we organise ourselves. In terms of the internal ones, we had an ambitious strategic plan. So our strategic objective, one of them, is to build the statistical capacity of our people to support the organisation in achieving its overall goals. To build statistical professionalism across the Irish statistical system, so not just in our National Statistical Institute, but in all the government agencies and departments involved in the production of any official statistics. We had no systematic approach to training, to statistical training. It was ad hoc and user driven. So somebody approached us for training, we got them training, and we might find at the end of the year that maybe 10 or 15 staff members did the same training course, and perhaps we could have saved money by taking that course in-house or by looking further afield to see was there more than 15 who needed that training. So certainly a focus for getting value for money from statistical training as well. So there, kind of very briefly, why we did it. What we did, the key objectives was to develop a structured statistical training framework which would build the statistical capacity of the Irish statistical system, enable us to respond to internal and external pressures, and deliver value for money on training expenditure. So in very, very briefly, I will take you through this, but we started off by designing the statistical training model in-house and considering what were the aspects that we wanted included. What were the things, if you were to start from scratch, that would be really important to a National Statistical Institute? And one of them for us was to line it up with the generic statistical business process model, which was heavily used in our office. So most of our processes were linked to a stage of the GSBPM. So we decided to link the skills to the stage of the GSBPM so we could see what skills were heavily used in what part of the process. We established an internal working group. We had a large number of skills which we aggregated into 13 high-level headings, and we consulted international colleagues and experts, mainly through the UN high-level group on the modernisation of official statistics, but also in the University of Southampton and Manchester. So once we had the 13 headings, we just developed the descriptors, and we included low-level descriptors like introductory, which would be having some knowledge of the topic but nothing substantial. And this enabled us to expand the framework to all levels of the organisation, not just the statistical staff. We had an existing skills register in the office where people registered their level of skill, and we expanded this to include the statistical skills, and then we developed a role specification for each role. So regardless of who is in the role, what kind of statistical skills are needed to complete it. And from that then we were able to establish where were the needs, where were the gaps. And so we went on then from the gaps to develop learning paths, and we populated the learning paths with training interventions, and we aligned them to the 70-20-10 model of learning, where 70% is on the job, 20 is from your colleagues, and your co-workers and your managers, and 10 from classroom learning. So in a very quick way, that is what we did over a period of time with a lot of people involved. So when we look at how did we make it sustainable? Because that is really the challenge, because when something is shiny and new, when people are interested, it's all very well. But what happens when, you know, there isn't the same level of support that you have when you have a launch? So I think the key thing is to build it into existing practices. And for us, we built it into our performance management system. So statistical training objectives had to be included in your performance management form. And so that way you were accountable to your manager at the end of the year, and you had to answer up for whether you did or you didn't achieve your statistical training objectives. It also enabled us to publish metrics. and where were the biggest training gaps, who experienced them the most, who took part in training, who completed training, who delivered training. And metrics are often powerful motivators for managers to motivate their staff, because they don't want to be the people with the lowest level or the highest gaps in their area. We also built it into our induction program. So we have a very detailed year one induction program, and we included the statistical training framework in this. So along with getting information on leadership and management and quality and health and safety and well-being, you also get information and you engage with the statistical training framework as part of that. Then continuing with that, we also have a business partnering model where I meet each of the heads of division each year, and we discuss how much training was completed, what kind of impact that the managers are seeing as a result of that training, and if they're not seeing impact, how can we change things to make it better? What kind of training they see as being, or what kind of skills they might see coming in the future that we now need to get training for, so that we're ready for the skills of the future. As I said already, the skills register is a register of all skills, so all IT, management, communication, presentation skills, but also the statistical skills. And as people move up the levels in skill after training, they record it within this system. So again, at every point that people engage with the system, they see the statistical training framework. Also making it accessible. So we record live training sessions and provide the training materials used. So we have a program that runs a couple of times a year, but if you want to do it at your own pace, at your own time, you can watch the videos, you can use the notes that were provided, and you can complete the assignments that are assigned to each part of that training or 8-week training program. We also have e-learning options. Some of them are in-house, some of them are provided through international organizations. So these make training very accessible. They put it in the hand of somebody, in the home of somebody, and make it, you know, available to them when it suits them. Networks as well. So we built a network of in-house trainers. So we did an ESTP train the trainer course, where we brought that program in-house and trained 20 statisticians who gave a commitment to deliver training for us as a result. But also building international connections is really important. And one of the most successful connections we've built in the last 2 years has been with Statistics Canada, where we have had Statistics Canada deliver a significant amount of training for us in the area of weighting and calibration, and in other areas too. But without those international connections, you know, you are very limited, especially if your training requirements are very specific to official statistics. And then new and emerging techniques. I think offering training or lectures in new areas keeps existing staff engaged. They want to know about new things, they want to do them better. So that's also a way of keeping people motivated and keeping them engaged in the training program. Also, another powerful way of doing it is through the communities of practice. So the communities of practice that we've set up in our organization have brought people together who have either work experience or knowledge or expertise or training in a particular topic. So for instance, we have one on weighting and calibration. And that community brings together people who are involved in weighting and calibration techniques as part of their process. And they were key to designing the bespoke course, which Statistics Canada delivered for us. But it means that if somebody has a problem, you can use the community to help you solve it. And somebody will have something additional to add that you may not have thought of before. So they're a community of learning, a community of support, and I suppose a community of development and I suppose championing best practice in particular areas as well. And I suppose finally, I think review is a really important part of keeping something sustainable, because the pace of change that we're at the moment, and I think it was Justin Trudeau said that the pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. And I think we can all feel that in what we are doing. So we have to adjust, update, and at the moment we're reviewing our framework to see if we can give a greater emphasis to data engineering and data science skills on our framework, because we believe that they're crucial to us delivering what we need to deliver as part of our strategic objectives. So staying relevant, that just because you have it completed doesn't mean that it's ever finished. It's a very living model that needs to be reviewed and updated. And I think if people see you staying with the pace of change, they will believe in the framework more and engage in it more as well. So I have a last slide about questions, but I understand that they're going to come at the end. So I will leave it there, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for sharing, Pamela. And I think the work that you're doing in Ireland is really an inspiration for a lot of other countries as well. So as Pamela was saying, please use the chat also to ask questions that you may have to any of the presenters. We now will move on to the last presenter of this session today. That is Bianca Walsh, and she's coordinating the Training and Development Department of the Brazilian Statistical Institute. She's been doing that for 6 years, and she's currently the Director's Technical Assistance in the National School of Statistical Sciences that is part of the Statistics Institute of Brazil. She's also represented in GIST, collaborating in 2 of the task teams that GIST has, and represents the IBGE, which is the Brazilian Statistics Office, as well in other groups, such as the Big Data group that focuses also on training, building, and competencies in that context. And we'll be hearing from or learning from the Brazilian experience as well here. So over to you, Bianca.
Thank you, Vivek. Can you see presentation in full screen? Yeah.
Yes.
So today I intend to talk a little about how we carry on our needs assessment and how we meet the needs we raise, okay, with a small focus on e-learning from this perspective of sustainability and accessibility. So first, let me just, sorry. So first, thinking of the learning needs assessment, here at IBGE, we have chased a way to do that in an optimized way, an efficient way to assess the needs of the Institute. And I could say that last year we had a huge achievement because we had an integrated effort very much pushed by a central government body that takes care of training and capacity building in all public federal civil service institutes. So we integrated efforts from all the departments in IBGE and also the state units. We have 27 states all over the Brazilian territory. So all the key stakeholders in this area of business, of capacity building and training were involved. And we reduced from past lists with 700, 800 items to a list of 200 items. By items, I mean needs, yes, sentences that represent the needs, that have no redundancy, or they are pretty much representative of what the staff here at IBGE really needs. The list covers from soft to technical needs, and I consider it sustainable first because every key actor in this business knows about the list because they helped build the list. So, and also because the list is there, we're not going to start from scratch, because we had this feeling that every year we would start from scratch by communicating about the needs assessment and also to get everybody on the same page. Okay, so now it's just revisiting and proceeding on small inclusions or exclusions if necessary. The learning needs in this list are thought in terms of actual performance. Okay, so they are always connected with an impact to work and also with an impact to the whole institute, to IBGE in strategic terms, okay? The final list goes to this central government body, which will integrate needs from several institutes from the federal public service, not only federal, state, and first it was, they started dealing just with the federal level. Now it's all over the levels of municipal, state levels too. Okay, let me just move on. Okay, so this is a snapshot of part of the form we used as a tool to assess those needs. As you can see, we do not only make questions or ask questions, we also teach them how to write the needs. And so you can see here, it's in Portuguese, and we'll just talk very fast about what it means. We are trying to teach them how to write their needs better. Of course, it was not only based on the form, but also we had several meetings with key actors in the process to teach them how to think of their needs and also translate it into a sentence. So we separated the sentence into three parts. The first part is about the learning objective and the learning effort represented by a verb. The second part is an additional comment on the sentence regarding the human capacity. I mean, this is about the actual impact in performance. And the third part would be about the result, the outcome for the institute. Here we have a part of this list, the first 26 needs of the 200 needs. As you can see, the sentences all start with verbs in the infinitive, and each one of those verbs represent a kind of effort, a level of effort in the learning. Yes, it has to do with cognitive stages in the process, okay? And then we have more information associated to the needs itself, the needs themselves. Well, once we have the needs assessed, then we have to deal with the needs. Okay, so how do we work in terms of program in a sustainable, from a sustainable perspective? So we get this list, and then we first separate what needs from our institute are really cross-cutting, transversal, as we say here in Portuguese, and that are very common in terms of, okay, another institute, government institute can also have the same needs. So those kinds of needs, we do not work with them anymore. In the past we did, and then now we have this mindset in our school that we should tackle only those needs that are specific to IBGE's mandate. So this is about statistics, geosciences applied to statistics, or even soft skills specific to IBGE mandate. So the other needs, we use external existing resources. Here I just highlight ENAP, which is the National School of Public Administration in Brazil. And I'm going to show right now the portal where they gather several courses to really to attend, to respond to those cross-cutting needs. Yeah, so you can find there, and this is open not only for civil servants but also to society. You have several courses such as courses to deal with public civil service systems, courses on public policies. Here you can see law and crime victim protection, digital transformation in government, leadership. You can even pick a topic and choose the courses that might be appealing to you. So here I picked data science, analysis and data science, and then I have this course on privacy, data privacy preserving, for example, legislation in Brazil. Here is our internal catalog. So excluding those that are very cross-cutting, transversal needs. We just deal with the specific needs that concern our mandate. So here is where our catalog comes. And here is a part of this pool of courses. As you can see, you have atualização do setor means updating enumeration areas. You have public policy programs and evaluation, getting to know IBGE, elaboration of graphs and tables in statistics, basic statistics. So it's pretty much turned to our specificities. Yes. As for e-learning, for us, it's really, it plays a key role because we are very big, yes, 27 states, huge Brazilian territory. So we have difficulties with moving, yes, to one central place to train or to build capacity. So we always worked with e-learning. We have a very strong virtual school. But we always dealt with this for foundational levels, foundational courses, or survey training, with this perspective of massive training, yes, in a non-facilitated format. But since the pandemic came and then we had to learn to deal with that, we have, from that point on, we have introduced, brought into the catalog, into the menu, facilitated courses. And here I include, I mean, really to reach, to outreach all those states and IBG's units. And here we have courses including soft skills, but very specific to IBG's reality. So in this case here, for example, the course we have on risk management is the risk management applying IBGE's methodology for risk management, or media training for those who have to deal with media to respond about survey results, for example. So they are really, even when we work with soft skills, they are pretty much turned to our specific needs, okay? And also recently we have, we are actually building it. We are constructing a program on big data, but very much turned to these geosciences universe of Earth observation for big data, etc. And we are adopting this sustainable view of taking profit of existing resources, okay, like MOOC courses or even courses in the universities from academia here in Brazil. And I find a common aspect with Ireland here. And from that, we build communities of practice or research to move to a higher level of knowledge and practice specific to what we need. Okay, so usually leading to application of specific projects to solve a problem we have. So this is something that has attracted our attentions, yeah, to invest more in this, taking profit of what we already have externally and how to move up from this. That's the idea. Just some examples to finish of our e-learning products. Okay, so this is a screen from the training regarding the National Household Sample Survey with videos, and it's an HTML based course. This is a course about didactics for this Trainer of Trainers project we have here at IBGE. And again, the same context, but turned to the census. Let me just, and here, for example, we finished with our learning mottos, okay, in this Trainer of Trainers project. Okay. Well, that's all. I'll be glad to answer your questions if necessary. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Bianca. I think it's yet another really good presentation, and you're really strong also on the training element in Brazil when it comes to statistics. So thanks so much for sharing. Also highlighting kind of the community of practice that we've seen mentioned by both Ireland and Brazil as a very important element. I'd like to hand back to Yixing to share another snippet of our videos, and then we'll move on to Q&A after that. So please feel free to share any questions you have in the chat if you haven't already done so.
Education and gender. This is an important issue for voters to understand, but people just don't seem very interested.
I've got an idea.
Today, the National Statistics Office of Estigia announced its first contest in data visualization, called HackaViz.
So this was a very short teaser. I put the links in the chat in the beginning of this session. For those of you who will be watching this afterwards and don't have access to the chat, you can also find it on the UNSDG Learn statistics pages. And those you also find the link to on the GIST homepages. So we are now moving to the Q&A part of this side event. And I've seen there's been a very active and engaged chat, a lot of positive feedback to our speakers. And I also see that quite a few responses have been provided in the chat. But maybe we could hear again from Abhirash on the questions that were posed in terms of kind of to what extent you bring your own resources and how you see the sustainability of what you've been setting up or what you're in the process of setting up.
Yeah, so the sustainability and what we're setting up, as I said in my presentation, we have been providing ad hoc trainings upon the request of line ministries and others who needs training. But now what we need is to make it more sustainable and to be more programmed. And for that, as I said, we're working on the training need assessment. So basically, to make it sustainable, we want to work very closely with GIST members, basically on designing and formatting the training need assessment questionnaire. Now, I also heard from Brazil that, and also from Ireland, that they have a very good experience on this training need assessment questionnaire. So we will work very closely with the GIST members on drafting, and actually we have some draft, but finalizing this training need assessment questionnaire. In addition, to make it more sustainable, we also want to design a curriculum for at least for the major identified areas. And also in that regard, we want to work with different countries, and GIST members on how to use and how to prepare more standardized curriculum. And I hope by doing that, we will make our training more sustainable. The other area, specific area, which we need support from more developed countries is like providing online training. So that is a bit new for us. So we want to get some support from GIST members and also other countries on this area. For the time being, we have already identified some specific areas to get the training. For example, statistical methodology is one area. Statistical coordination is another area. Identified area. Data quality, how to maintain data quality is also another area, and how to use and so for these identified areas, we will look for the documents in the SDG Learn and from other sources to provide training. Yeah, so this is how we are planning to make it more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhirash. And I saw the question also was relating to Ghana, which is the other pilot country for GIST in this context. And In Ghana, it really was initiated by the chief statistician, who saw that there was a need to also provide more regular trainings to his staff. He's taking a more kind of, he's starting with some key elements, not to make it too big. So what we've been discussing there is that they'll also identify, or they'll do a need assessment, identify really the core needs of staff. Some of the things he had mentioned were statistical language trainings in terms of Python and R and so on, but also a training on the more legal skill sets, knowledge about kind of the statistical legal framework, confidentiality, these kind of basic skills that are needed for onboarding. So that will not necessarily be a full-fledged training school as such, but just start to thinking on how they also can build a community of practice within the statistics office in Ghana. So we are also partnering there. What we've been doing is that we have meetings now every second month, maybe, with all the key partners that Ghana is working with, so that we all also contribute jointly towards this need that he has in terms of making it more regular in terms, the trainings that are being done in Ghana. So I hope that this will be another kind of experience from Ethiopia. The two countries have chosen quite different paths. So I think it's interesting in terms of piloting. And we're looking forward to share it also with the wider statistics community as examples that others can benefit from as well. And I think we're also currently just looking at working with maybe one or two other countries. So you can stay tuned for that as well. There haven't been, or many of the questions that have come up have been responded to in the chat. So what I'll do instead is that I'll just give each of the speakers a minute to maybe summarize some of the things that have come up, things you want to highlight from what you've seen. And I'll start with you, Mitali, to maybe share some thoughts on what you've heard.
I must thank all the speakers. I think it's been a really informative session. And really good examples of what work is being done out there in this training area and capacity building area. Most NSO offices are so busy doing surveys and censuses that very few actually set aside time to build capacity. And the SDG indicators really demand a lot out of NSOs who are not necessarily in a position to provide all that data and indicators. So it's really important, as I saw all these presentations, that we can draw from the strengths of the presenters, institutions, and I hope that GIST can move forward by learning and integrating the best practices we have seen over here. And like Doug said, he would like them to share their materials. I think that this has been a really good session, and the world will benefit from our work in trying to get the best of the best, so that other NSOs can benefit. So, and I also want to point out that Ethiopia did a great thing, like Vibeke said, in integrating it into their national strategic plan in the legal framework, that training is important. And I think Pamela also mentioned that putting it in a performance plan, that how much time you spend training or building your capacity should work towards your promotion in your career. And so once you have those aspects, it would make it more sustainable. So thank you.
Thank you, Mitali. And I don't know, Doug, if there anything you want to respond to or kind of highlight from your side.
I'd just like to echo what Mitali said, that this has been a very good session, and especially the opportunity it provides to exchange ideas and also to ask questions on what kind of material, what kind of needs you have, sort of to say where you need support. For example, on my side, I would like to know more about needs assessment forms. As needs assessments, it can be done big or small. And if we are not going to break our necks doing needs assessments, I think it's a good idea at least to keep our eyes open to do this in a quick way, and having good ideas and others' ideas and experiences on how this could be done is something that I'd like to take away. And I know that Bianca has already done something, so I'll ask her about the question.
Yeah, no, I think we should try and collect also a good point. Any additional point from you, Abhiraj?
Okay, yeah. From this session, it has been a very good session. We have got information that, and I also realized that there are good experiences in providing sustainable training from different countries. So we'll contact also the countries like Poland, Brazil, to get more experience. We'll continue working with Statistics Norway as our very good, as we have very good contact, and we are getting very high quality support from Statistics Norway. And we'll also work with GIST to operationalize our plan and to make more sustainable training for the national statistical system. And I hope very soon we'll have a very organized, sustainable training program. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And over to you, Pamela, for a very quick feedback.
Thanks. I suppose one point that just struck me is that sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming when you start from a very low level of statistical training to think about building something as advanced as some of us have. But I think that start small, get the quick wins going, the communities of practice, the free training, and build towards it. None of these programs or frameworks were developed overnight, and it took a lot of people and a lot of effort to do it. So just when you think about giving up, keep going, because it'll be worth it. So thank you.
And over to you, Bianca.
Excellent opportunity to see the challenges we have ahead. Yes, Beck brought all the points that we already detect as the challenges for many of us, the national statistical offices. For example, I was very interested in this, and we are interested in building those learning paths that Ireland has a lot of experience about. So it's very good to meet and see what some NSOs can offer because they have more experience, and how we can exchange ideas and experiences. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've also seen now that there is a question from Nigeria in the chat on kind of how we can offer courses to Nigeria to help build capacity. And I think what I'd like to quickly say on that is that you can access the UNSDG Learn Statistics platform to find a lot of e-learning courses. We will be adding more there, so hopefully you'll find something that is useful to you. And the work that we are currently doing with Ethiopia and Ghana will be materials that we try to make available to the whole statistics community that you hopefully also can benefit from, that will be very practically oriented, so that you also can see from a starting point that is maybe not so advanced, maybe it is, but you can kind of look at things at different levels of development is a little bit the thinking that I am leads up having around this. But I'd like to hand over to our last speaker who will be closing the event. That is Kieran Walsh, who is working for the ILO. He actually wanted to be introduced as a superhero, so he is one of our superheroes. But yeah, he's also working a lot on labor statistics naturally, and has a background from the Statistics Office in Ireland. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. I didn't actually think you were going to do that, but I commend you. Also to say, I'm fascinated how a surname like Walsh ended up in Brazil, but that's a different discussion. So, well, thank you to all the speakers. I think it's been an excellent session to highlight what's happening in countries. I also think the scene setting by Dag and Mitali was very useful for us. like outlining the range of challenges we have. What's it take to create a sustainable program? And just some reflections from my side about it. Firstly, I'd say from my recent years of engagement with this GIST network, is my understanding of what a training program is has evolved. All right, I would say if I go back a few years when we started talking about this, the first thing I would always think about was a training curriculum, right? Having a set of courses or materials that covered as much as you needed. But of course, it goes beyond that, and that's become very obvious through these discussions today. It involves the people. It hits the people. It's about processes, practices, systems that you put in place, modes of delivery. So there are very many elements to what makes up a training program that goes beyond just organizing content. That's comprehensive. And then based on that, I was trying to think as we were listening to people, what would a sustainable training program look like? I mean, when we bring in the word sustainable, what does it take to create something that's sustainable? And I made a list of bullet points of how many different things it would have to achieve. And I came up with things like, well, it has to be comprehensive in coverage of topics. People have to be motivated to engage. It has to be flexible for different modes of delivery and accessible to as many people as possible. It should be reusable so that it's somehow retained and sustains itself over time. It should be well resourced. It should also be efficient with those resources. It should be well targeted based on the needs that are there. It should be prioritized because we can't do everything we always want. It should reach all of those who require training. It should engage or leverage other providers of training where possible, so not necessarily just from the NSO or from training professionals. It should be transparent and provide some sort of recognition. It should be current, interesting, and dynamic. And it should be recognized that it's only part of the learning path that people go on. This 70-20-10 model we've heard about. So, I mean, in a sense, that can seem overwhelming, right? That you have to try and develop a program that hits all of these objectives. But it's a path. I think this is the point, as Pamela has been saying. This builds up over time. I go back. I was in the CSO up to 2014, and I would say the system we had in place then was far less developed than the one we have now. It has been transformed. It was a program. There was a program in place. It delivered a lot of training, but it was nowhere near as organized or as well structured as it is now. So there's plenty of hope there. We can learn from these experiences and build something sustainable. So what I was then trying to think of is what parallels can we draw? And I often hear parallels about transportation or travel. And I was trying to think of it in these terms, that rather than building a Ferrari, we want to build something like a public transport network. In the case of training, we want multiple modes. We want something that gets people from where they are now to where they need to go at various speeds, by various means, and covers as many people as possible. And if you're trying to build something like that, a public transport network, the obvious place to start is the place I think we've heard a lot about today, which is an assessment of the needs. People who are going about building public transport networks, they first try to know where are people now and where is it they need to get to, right? And from there, they start to plan out the modes, the frequencies, the capacities, and so on. So I think it's clear why that is necessary. And I think anytime I hear sustainability, I think you need some sort of structure and you need some sort of record. And that's, again, why an assessment of needs is necessary. If we keep on doing things on an ad hoc, unstructured basis, we can meet some needs, but sustainability is never truly going to be achieved. So I think that's a sensible starting point. We can also then, we can organize some buses to get people from A to B as needed. So these would be, early training courses that meet obvious needs. This, of course, can be done in the interim while we're building up our network, but over time, we have to try and build that network that can link together and get people to as many destinations as possible. So how can GIST help? Well, I think GIST is doing what it needs to do. I think starting to get a common understanding of what a training program is and where it fits. I think that's useful. For me, as I say, my understanding has evolved over the last few years of what a training program is. So I think even that common understanding of what it involves is a step forward. But then the sharing of practices, the sharing of knowledge is obviously what's critical. We can give a certain amount of direct support, and I hope that can continue and build over time, like is happening with Ethiopia, and share those practices. But we also need to promote as much country to country, south to south cooperation as possible, because the international system or a small network is never going to have the resources to truly meet all the needs. We need to support others to share that knowledge and do it in a sustainable way. So, so thank you to everyone for the interventions, the information. I thought it was very useful, and I hope it's very helpful to people. One very last comment from me is I don't think we heard a lot about resourcing. It was mentioned a couple of times, but I think sustainability implies adequate resourcing, and that's a big challenge that again GIST can't meet, but somehow we have to highlight it. This is about raising awareness among those people who have control of money. And I don't know, is there something we can also do in that direction? So thank you very much, and I hope everyone enjoyed the event as much as I did.
Thank you very much, Kieran. And thanks to all the speakers, thanks to everyone who joined us. Looking forward to the continuation, and have a good rest of the day and a good weekend. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.